The Sandy and Toddcast is a Mindgarden Media podcast in association with
Screw You, Todd
Productions.
Broadcasting from two very different yet magical places not found on any map. Get ready to discuss the strange, weird, ghostly, crazy, spooky, and odd things that take place around us each and every day. All while having a little bit of fun. This is the Sandy and Toddcast.
And here we go. It's another Sandy and Toddcast. She is Sandy.
He is Todd.
And this is Season 11, Episode 3, Ghost Hunting 101. This episode is about equipment.
Dun, dun, dun. I don't know why I did that.
I'm not sure either, but I kind of felt like something was needed there, and you rose to the occasion.
I just rose to the occasion. Dun, dun, dun. There's nothing bad about equipment. I don't know why I did that. Anyways, so yeah, this week we're going to talk about equipment, some of the basics, what our favorites are, what 3 we couldn't possibly live without at an investigation, and all that good stuff.
I think the interesting thing for me is that while there has been some improvements, I think, and changes in equipment that are used, sometimes I don't think the improvements are all that great. And I actually end up going back to like a previous version. It's kind of like when you get your Windows update and you go from Windows 10 to Windows 11, and you go, God, I just kind of wish I would stay with Windows 10.
I know. Can I uninstall this?
I don't know that it's necessarily, because sometimes when you get older, you don't want to change with the times. I don't feel like with me that it's that. I think sometimes the equipment, they put it out before they've really taken time to have people use it and test it and see how it actually works.
Yeah.
Because as you know, in this industry, you know, new equipment, people will be snatching that up left and right. And there's a lot of money to be made in it. Yep. And sometimes you get the stuff out in the field and you're like, boy, it's not quite the same.
I have one of those.
I know you do. Tell me the story on that.
I have one of those. I actually thought I had two, but actually the one of them, the Tempest, I kind of paid a lot of money for and thought I wasn't going to like it. However, the more I use it, the more I do like it. But the other one is, and I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but it's the one that you see on Ghost Hunters, and it's like a triangular one. It's got a red on one side and a green light on the other.
Yeah.
And you ask the spirits to touch yes or no. And I paid a good chunk of money for that, and don't tell Dave, but I don't like it at all.
Okay. Why don't you like it? I
barely ever use it because it's, first of all, when one of them goes off, okay, it goes off for a long, long time. So it goes off for like 20 seconds before it resets. I do not like that. I think that if you're in the throes of a conversation with an intelligent energy, they're not going to want to wait 20 seconds for your light to go off before you can ask them something else, or it kind of interrupts the flow of what you're trying to do by that many seconds. I wish it was adjustable. It doesn't seem to be adjustable at all. The other thing is that I think it might be a little too difficult for intelligent energy to actually set it off, because it's difficult for me to set it off.
Yeah.
And also it's adjustable to how many feet out its radius is, like, 2 feet, 5 feet, 10 feet, whatever. And I don't like the way that works either. Maybe it's just me being too picky about a piece of equipment. But I've used a lot of equipment, and honestly, I just don't feel like it's something that is good for me. It's a good fit for me. It might be a great fit for somebody else, but to me, that too many seconds in between going off sort of breaks the momentum of what you're trying to do, as opposed to a K2 meter where you can roll right along and ask questions, and the energy will set it off for yes, that set it off for no, however you set up that agreement between you. So that's one that I spent some money on and I'm kind of disappointed in.
So one of the ones that has also come out, they've kind of upgraded the spirit box. The SB7's been upgraded to, I believe, SB11 or something like that.
Yes.
And it uses also the AM band and the FM band at the same time, and you can go forward and backwards and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I know that you got one, right?
Yes, I did. That's the other one. I didn't even think about that one, but yes.
That's the one I thought you were going to talk about. So
yeah, that one wasn't cheap either.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people, I jumped on the bandwagon way too quickly. And I just don't like it. The noise canceling one. It was very difficult for me to maneuver. And to remember certain buttons and different things. And also it just seemed like I couldn't hear things coming through as strongly as I did with the static in the background.
There's so much going on that one that it is hard to decipher anything coming through, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I've only had a chance to use one. I did not purchase one. I stuck with the SB7 and have kind of just stuck with that for the time being.
I love the spirit box. Like we use it in all the investigations that we do, but that one I actually sold to one of the people in our paranormal group. I haven't asked her if she has used it yet, but I didn't care for it. I just really didn't care for it. So there is going to be equipment that you're going to buy and you're going to find that you don't like. And sometimes it's the only way to really know if you're going to like something or not.
And here's the thing. Everybody likes their own thing. They all have equipment that they feel comfortable using. Yeah. So if you have these pieces that we've talked about and you enjoy using them, excellent. There's
Keep
things
using them.
Yeah, there's things that Sandy uses that I don't like, and I'm sure vice versa. So find what fits for you. Try new stuff. I think it's always, I would like if I had the opportunity on every investigation, I would try something new for a while and see how it works, whether it's that triangle that you're talking about with the lights, or if it's the SB11, or if it's a light grid, a laser grid, whatever it might be. I would love the opportunity to try something new at an investigation. Yeah. And then, make the decision on whether or not it's something I wanted to bring into my fold. Now, this is I want to talk about like different types of equipment. One of the big ones is EMF detectors. Yeah. And one for me that's still a big standby is that K2 meter. I know some people have kind of gotten away from using it because they can be tripped off by other things. But again, if you're using the equipment and you're using your brain to say, boy, this is actual communication. It's not just going off to go off. It looks like it's responding. You can use that as evidence. I do like the Mel meter that has the K2, that has the REM pod on it.
You know what? I bought the plain Mel meter. Yeah. Several years ago, and loved that. Didn't know that the REM pod one came out until I found it by accident when I was perusing one of the websites. And I absolutely love the Mel meter with the REM pod. I love it. I love it. And it's a really, really great piece of equipment. I would highly recommend to anyone if you are just learning. And what to your point about the K2 meter too, I think that something like the K2 meter that's especially sensitive is you have to familiarize yourself with equipment really well. So for example, I take my K2 meter. I've done this a million times. I do it regularly just to make sure. I take it and I leave my phone off airplane mode and I put it up to my phone to see how it behaves around my phone. Then I put it on airplane mode, and I put the K2 up to my phone to see how it behaves. I use the K2 with the car on, and I kind of, if it's a rainy day, but I want to try and get some, I see how it reacts that way. I try it with on, I try it with off, I try it in certain situations. I have used it to the point where I am extremely familiar with the K2 and my particular K2, because investigating is very, very individual, and it's very, very personal. Even the people who go out and do it for thrills only, it becomes personal to them, and they have personal favorites. And so it's really important to become really familiar with your equipment and use it in certain situations. Try it out, see where it's sensitive, see where it doesn't react, where it does. And, so to your K2 comments, I love the K2. We're going old school with the K2. And I have used it over and over and over again and gotten some amazing results just with the K2 alone.
Yeah. I mean, if you're just going out for a quick little investigation, to have a K2 with you and then have your phone to record video and or audio or whatever you want to do.
Yep.
There's nothing easier.
Yep.
Taking a look at some of the stuff that's out there. K2 is an EMF. Obviously, we talked about the Mel meter. That Mel meter that has the different levels of equipment, including the K2 and the REM pod and the temperature fluctuation. It has that as well.
Yes.
I think that's a really nice unit.
A lot of people, and too, with that, I don't want people to discount the temperature fluctuation too,
yeah.
Because the temperature fluctuation is not just a device to measure, but you can actually use that intelligently as well. Because spirits can raise and lower the temperature, the ambient temperature in a room. I had that experience at the Braylock Inn 5 or 6 years ago. Dave and I were spending the night, and I had a K2 and I had a Mel meter, and I asked this spirit to raise and lower the temperature in the room. And not only did he raise and lower it, but he set the alarm off for me as he was doing it. So you can use it intelligently, but it's a great tool. That's like an all-in-one type of tool.
And it gives you the opportunity to have multiple instances of gathering information. So in other words, if the K2 goes off and the temperature fluctuates, now you got two things that happened at the same time. So it gives you another layer of evidence to link with other stuff. EDI boxes are very similar to that, where there's weather, there's pressure change, there's temperature gauges, there is the EMF. There's also the one for movement. I do like that. I like having that on that. So EDI is something that I really like taking out. The other thing I like about the EDI, besides all the different things that it will show, is that you can put an SD card in it and take that card out, plug it into your laptop, and it will show you every time something fluctuated and changed. And again, if you get a situation where, well, there was a little EMF and then there was a temperature fluctuation and it picked up some movement, now you've got three things all at once. You're like, well, something probably happened there.
Yeah, I'll give a quick example of an EDI situation. We were investigating an old farmhouse, and there was a beautiful big staircase. Actually, it was two different farmhouses, two different staircases, two different investigations. It happened twice. Both times women. I could detect women going up and down the stairs. And so I sit on the stairs. I tend to do that. I'll sit right in the area where I feel the most energy, or right in the midst of what I see them doing. And we put an EDI next to me on the stairway. And as she was coming down the stairs, the EDI was detecting her motion. And so it started going off at the same time that one of the other pieces of equipment would go off. And then as she came back up the stairs, the EDI would detect her motion and go off. And then the other piece of equipment would go off. So they are really a great tool to use in an investigation. I know they're a little more pricey. They can be a little bit pricey, but they are definitely worth their weight in gold. There's some things that I'm willing to spend money for. And then there's other things that I am not going to spend money for. Case in point, the SLS cameras.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about those before. Those go for about $650 to $1,000, depending on the package you get. Now, SLS is the one, the stick figure one. I said, there's no way I am spending that kind of money. So I made my own. And you have one too, right? That you made?
Yeah, it's a little, they're a little clunky if you make them yourself because the equipment's a little heavier and all that kind of stuff. But they can be made. And
I think I made mine for about $65.
Yeah, we got, when we made it one here, we used stuff that we found online that was used equipment. And it was pretty easy to put together. So the only thing I'd like to do with that is figure out a way for it to be a little bit more portable than it is. But,
yes.
So there's all types of equipment. And for me, I don't mind spending maybe $200 on a piece. Mm-hmm. If it's something that I know I like, I'll do that. Beyond that, there's a whole range of other things that I'm not sure that I would spend a lot of money on. I know you have a Tempest, and there's also the Ovilus out there. An Ovilus 5 goes for about $600 right now.
Yep. My Tempest was just shy of $5.
I have to be between you and I. That's one piece of equipment that I don't have a ton of confidence in by itself.
Right.
I think it can add to the investigation. But I don't know that I want to spend $500 to have that if I have all these other pieces of equipment. So
I had always wanted an Ovilus, but remember the puck when these first came out, the paranormal puck.
Yep.
I had always wanted one, and I saw that this came out, and so I talked Dave into it, and we bought it. It was just shy of $500. And in the beginning, I was kind of disappointed because I thought it was just going to be this phenomenal thing that you would use on your own. It is, to your point, a much better piece of equipment to use in conjunction with other pieces of equipment. Case in point, investigation last August in a tavern for my show, Empire Spirits. We had the Tempest, and we had our guest star for that episode, Sean. He was doing the Estes method with the spirit box. He had his headphones on. His eyes were closed. And we were having a conversation with this spirit. And at one point, Sean says, "Go." And I said, "Why?" And after I said why, there was a couple seconds of silence. And Dave, who was standing behind me with the Tempest said, "Please leave." And as I turned around to say, "Did that just say please leave" to Dave? And he said, "Yes, something was thrown in the basement." So in that case, it was great to be able to use that in conjunction with the spirit box. Sean got go. We got please leave right after that. It was a great confirmation of what Sean got. And so it's a great tool to use, but I would never recommend using it fully by itself for anything because I think it needs to work in conjunction with something. Now I'm much happier with it because we've learned how to use it. There have been some updates to it because it was brand new when we got it. So we have some updates to it. We're able to put our own words in there now. And so I'm actually very happy with it. But if you're going to spend that kind of money, don't be me. Actually give it a little time before you buy and make sure that you see what the reviews are on it and what people have to say about it before you do that. I was just so excited to see it. And then at first I was kind of disappointed. And you don't want that to happen. You want to be able to go into it really successful if you're going to do it. So just be sure that if you're going to spend a lot of money, just make sure that you take the time to wait it out a little bit and make sure that everybody else is in agreement that they like it too.
And I would also suggest reaching out to someone who has investigated, maybe with this equipment or just equipment in general, before you buy. And here's a reason why. I just went online and I looked for ghost hunting kits, right?
Yeah.
And you can get a starter kit for like $175.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several pieces in this kit. But the problem with the kit is, here's what it includes. It includes a Sony recorder, audio recorder, motion detectors, 2 of them. Now, have you used motion detectors before?
I have, yes.
Again, it's one of those things. They can be great. They can be an additional
That's why
piece
I
of
said
equipment,
it like I did.
but it's not something I would use by itself.
Right.
Right. Like if you had access to all the equipment in the world, every type of device, and motion detectors were part of it, great. But I don't think I would throw them out if I was sitting there with a K2. That would not work for me.
Not at all.
Motion activated cat balls. Now, you know what those are, right?
Yep.
Those are they're literally cat toys that if somebody moves them, they light up.
Right.
And then 4 mini Maglite flashlights. So for all this, you're basically getting a recorder, 2 motion detectors that work together,
right?
Cat balls, and flashlights for $175. Yeah,
beware of things like that.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I would say for somebody who's first starting out, okay, I would say stay with the basics. To me, basics are a digital recorder, and you can actually get really good quality digital recorders for about $23. Don't let people tell you that you have to spend $189 for a digital recorder. Even the ones that cost $23 are very good quality. You can do voice activation recording as well. They have plenty of features, and it's really a good idea too to have more than one. What I like to do during an investigation is I carry one digital recorder with me for EVP sessions. But if I'm in a location where we're all going to be on the other side of the building, I will take the second recorder and set it up in the side of the building that we're not in and just let it roll. And the reason I do that is because a lot of times you can still get great evidence that's just going on, whether it's residual or intelligent, when you're not around. A lot of things happen when you're not in the actual location. And so why not try to get some other... I've got some really great stuff. We did the investigation at a local bar restaurant. It was a hotel. And we got the infamous really heavy boot steps in the bar area. None of us were in that area all night long. And these were deliberate, legitimate boot steps. So if you're going to get digital recorders, get a couple of them. Again, you don't have to spend a ton of money. I don't. And mine work just wonderfully. And so that would be a great basic to have. If that's in a ghost hunting kit, you better be getting a lot more stuff than just a couple recorders and some motion detectors and, et cetera, et cetera.
Now, here's a kit for roughly $60 more. This includes an SB7.
Okay.
And a speaker for it. A standard meter, which has temperature and EMF.
They're about $100.
Yeah. A recorder.
Okay.
And a K2. So 4 pieces of equipment, all handheld, for about $240.
Okay.
Not the worst in the world.
No, that's a little bit better, I'd say, than the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. But look at the pricing on this stuff, because there's so many different price points on things. I'm looking at this. I see 2 K2 meters. One is $19. The other one is $12. So look at who's selling it, because you will see reviews on the company, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's fancy spirit boxes. There's the original spirit box, which right now is not that expensive. A regular spirit box that I can see is probably about $80 right now.
Is that the red one that like I have?
The SB7?
Yes.
It's black. It's the original.
Okay. The original. Okay.
It's about $80.
Right.
There's also a spirit box SB7 Pro, which looks similar, but it's $233.
Oh.
So really take a look. Now, I want to get your question because I'm a firm believer that if you have a phone, you've got a pretty good recorder on you.
You sure do.
Especially if you have Apple products, Apple iPhones have great recording. And I know a lot of groups that actually use that as their recording device.
Yes.
I see fewer and fewer people taking out elaborate camera setups.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've got one of the old Sonys from back in the day.
Yep.
Digital. It's got the what do they call it? The night vision, right?
Yes.
You throw some infrared lights on that and you got a pretty good look.
Right.
I don't set up cameras anymore. I just don't.
It's something that I agree with you. And there's something to be said for kind of going back to the basics. There's something to be said for dumbing it down a little bit. One thing that is really important, and I really did want to stress that in this episode, and this is probably a good place to do it, is try not to get so caught up in your equipment that you forget or disable yourself from having personal experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Pay attention to your surroundings. Pay attention to how you feel, what you hear. If you're fidgeting with equipment and you're so worried about equipment all the time, and did I get a good angle on this camera and this and that, you're going to miss some of the best parts of investigating. There's something wonderful to be said about evidence and evidence collection, but no matter how much evidence we collect over the years, there's always going to be people who completely disregard it. If you're doing this because it's something personal to you, it's something that you want to learn about, it's something you want to share in a good way with other people like you, evidence is less important than the feelings and the personal experiences that you have in the investigation, the connections that can be made. And so I just feel like the less equipment sometimes that we use, the better our experience.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong. I mean, I have more equipment than most people I know who investigate. I mean, I have a lot of equipment, but I don't use it all at the same time. Sometimes I don't use anything. Sometimes I just go in with a flashlight so I don't fall downstairs, and my digital recorder, or a K2 and a recorder, or, like I said, nothing. It all depends on the situation, but just don't forget to feel things and experience things yourself personally. Yeah. The
last investigation I went on, which was at the Thrasher Opera House, in Green Lake.
Mm-hmm.
We had 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5 people investigating. And we were in the theater itself. I was up in the balcony, and then everybody else took a spot in the audience. And we had a couple of pieces of equipment on stage. We had a piece of equipment or two over by a piano. I had some equipment up by me. And I thought we just did a really good job of keeping our eyes open.
Yeah.
Keeping our ears open. Communicating with one another. There were a lot of, did you just hear that? And then one of the people who worked at the theater who was investigating with us would say, I think that was the lights cooling down. You heard them click. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. Or that was the heat coming on and you heard it boom in the wall. Okay, all that. But what we did was we each took one of those instruments to watch while we were listening, while we were asking questions, so that we weren't always scanning around and A, missing something, or B, not paying attention to the investigation because all you're doing is paying attention to the equipment. Is it lighting up? Right? Is it lighting up? Is it flashing? Is blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And, we had some great evidence where that piano, we believe, drew in the energy of a family member of somebody who was on the investigation.
So cool.
And we had very long conversations with the equipment that was there. And it was very, very cool. But I really liked the way that we were all able to investigate in one spot together. It was a very large spot. but we were able to do it together. And I think we sliced it up. So we each had something that we were kind of watching over and working with.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think, there's really something to be said for the chemistry of the people in the group that are together. And so if you're concentrating more on your equipment than you're concentrating on the people that you're with, I think when living energies, the people that you're with, when the chemistry and the energy gets together, it can create amazing things. We ourselves together can attract these energies. But if we're not concentrating, if we're paying more attention to our equipment than we are to what's going on around us, we're going to miss out on a lot of amazing things.
Yeah. Also
that we can get it on a recorder or on a camera or, whatever. And that, like I said, I have a ton of equipment, but I might only use like one or two pieces of equipment myself personally on an entire investigation.
Right.
My handy dandy K2 and my digital recorder, so it's just really important to remember that you don't have to have a ton of equipment. Don't let yourself be discouraged if you can't afford the $500 this or the $200 that, because you can go on Amazon and get yourself a couple of Maglite flashlights for $9.99 and they'll last you forever. And you can get a Melmeter for about $100. That's a little bit on the high end, but they have EMF meters. They have one called the Ghost Meter. I actually have that one. I bought it for our Empire Spirit show because there's a bunch of us and I wanted to make sure everybody had equipment because they don't belong to a paranormal group, most of the members. And it works really well. It's a very simple meter. It's called the Ghost Meter. I think you can get it for like $49.99 on Amazon, but it works really well. And it's noisy and it's fun to play with and it's fun to use, but it works. And so get yourself, a basic. Get yourself a $22 digital recorder. Get yourself a $25 K2 meter, one or two of each of these things, any of them, any combination of them, and you're ready to ghost hunt. But again, your phone is a wonderful tool. Your phone has a camera. Your phone also has a recorder. Lots of people, I think even Amy and Adam have used their phones on Kindred Spirits before to do EVP sessions because that's what they're using. That's what they have. And it works really well for them as well. So there's lots of ways around this expensive equipment that everybody has and everybody wants and everybody sees on TV. And it's just, you can just do it with yourself and your phone.
Yep.
That's an investigation right there.
And I can't speak to whether or not these work well or not, but there's plenty of apps out there for your phone as well. Mm-hmm. And you can give them a try. See how they work for you.
See how they work.
My trust level would be kind of questionable on some of that stuff, but there may be some out there that actually work halfway decently.
For $4.99, it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
Why not give it a shot?
It's not $500 that you don't like to use and don't tell your husband about because.
Well, now that one I do like to use. It's the $200 one that's just shot. And then there's also things. Speaking of using yourself as a tool during an investigation, there's also things like divining rods.
Yep.
And pendulums. I use pendulums all the time in investigations. They really help me. They help to guide me in the direction that I want to go. If I'm feeling a certain way or I'm feeling the energy of a certain kind, I'll take out my pendulum and start asking some questions and use that. Those, not expensive. And if you're the least bit intuitive, they can really help you in the direction of an investigation. Lots of stuff. There's the Boo Buddy that's out there. It's cute.
But you could probably get the same results with a teddy bear and a K2 sitting next to it.
I completely agree. Exactly. And that's my point is you can go out and you can do these things in your own way without spending a lot of money. And you can have just as much success and just as much fun as you would by spending a lot of money. All right. So let me ask you this.
All right.
If you were on an investigation and you could only take 3 pieces of equipment with you for the whole investigation, Todd, what 3 pieces of equipment would you take with you?
So I would take my phone to use as a recorder and or a camera.
Mm-hmm.
I would take K2.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take the advanced meter with me.
Oh my gosh, Todd, we just have the same exact answers.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would take. and here's why, because the K2 and the meter have some overlap of what they do.
Yes.
And that would allow you to possibly separate them in the room a little bit to see, let's say you get a response over here and then automatically you get a response over there. It might be something moving around kind of thing. But
a confirmation sort of thing.
So you would have, you'd have your EMF, your EMF with the K2 and the meter. You'd have your temperature with the meter. Yep. You would have the REM pod with the meter. And your phone, you could record audio and or video and take pictures.
Yeah, perfect.
To me, that would be enough.
Yeah, yeah. Because you want to leave room for your own personal experiences. You don't want to. When I went to Bachelor's Grove Cemetery with Dave, when we were in Chicago and we were on our way to see you, this was a few years ago, and we went to Bachelor's Grove and I took 0 equipment with me except my phone and I took some pictures. Why? Because I had said to Dave, Dave, he says, are you going to bring anything in with you? I said, no, because I want to really experience this place. This is well known, well documented. It's very famous. It may be perhaps one of the most haunted cemeteries in the United States. I may never come back again. I want to experience it. I want to have the experience. I don't want to worry about, is my digital recorder going? Is my, K2 meter flashing? Because as I'm looking down at this K2 meter, something may be walking right by me. Something may be happening that I'm missing. And so I didn't take anything with me. And it was a great experience. Yeah. I picked up energy and I felt a certain way about everything. And I got to really enjoy just the experience of being there. So there's something to be said for, dumbing it down, less equipment, and just knowing when to use what equipment. You don't have to use it all at once. So, and I'd also bring my pendulum. I did have to have a little add-on there. I also would bring my pendulum because I do count on my pendulum for a lot of things. So, but we had the same exact answers.
Not surprised.
Not at all. We're very similar in so many ways, but especially in our outlook of equipment and ghost hunting and paranormal investigations too. So
if you find yourself, excuse me, I've got this cough thing yet, but if you find yourself and you're thinking about buying equipment and you need somebody to bounce some ideas off of, feel free to reach out to Sandy or I.
Yes.
You don't have to listen to anything we say if you don't want to. That's fine. But ask around. Find out what your friends are using. What do they really enjoy? Some people love to always stay on top of the technology and have the newest phones and the newest cameras and the newest recorders and the newest EMF and blah, blah, blah. And that's fine.
Sure.
But I don't think not having the newest or the quote unquote most improved right now ever means that you're going to end up with more response, with more reaction, with more something going on. You can get just as much response with very, very minimal equipment or less expensive equipment than you can with the most expensive equipment. Yeah.
And it's just a matter of, I think it really comes down to, Todd, what your goal is. I know some paranormal groups are very scientific based and they don't use mediums. They don't, they use their personal experiences, but they rely very heavily on equipment. Others don't. They are very minimalistic when it comes to investigations. That's great too. I tend to be middle of the road. I tend to have favorite pieces of equipment that I use, but I also use my intuitive abilities to guide us. But in the end, I think it just matters. You really have to ask yourself what your goal is with investigating. If it's more on the scientific side and you want to have more equipment, that's certainly great. But you can do a lot with less, for sure.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So yeah, definitely reach out to us. Chances are we probably use some of this equipment that you're questioning. And if we haven't, we still have opinions on it. We can kind of guide you through things. Definitely reach out to us if you have any questions, any stories about equipment or anything else that's going on with you in the paranormal world. And we'd love to share them on the show.
Sounds good. Looks like this episode is in the bag.
In the bag.
In the can. In the whatever.
In the something.
What are we going to talk about next week?
Next week, I think, why don't we talk a little bit about protection next week?
I love that.
I know, me too, because there are all different kinds of things you can do to protect yourself. So I think let's just do a little bit about types of protection that we can use.
Sounds good. It's all about Ghost Hunting 101 this season. We're having a lot of fun getting back to our roots. We hope you're enjoying it as well. So for the Sandy and Toddcast, till we see you next time, bye.
Bye.